flowers, I don't know, they just look cool when you capture them right. Because I started with a photo that we took, me and my girlfriend Allery took. It was actually in the yard of the sunflower. And I've always liked that photo. It looked cool. If you ever just looked at a box or something, everything on that is placed on that box for a certain reason, aesthetically. You know, you think about a painting or a drawing, it's placed on there to represent what it looks like or to be, so it's pleasing to the eye. So they're both pretty much the same. Right now I'm thinking about doing a picture of the Newport Bridge at night from when they had because they just had the birthday of the bridge and they put the red, white, blue up on the bridge. I have a nice photo of that. I want to paint that next. I do commissions, or I just, paint for myself and then put them up, and if people want them to buy them, they're there. And I'm hoping to do a gallery show somewhere when I have enough paintings to do one again. I always had a bike. I started riding a bike from when I was like 3 years old. When I was 9, my dad bought me, it was a Mongoose Super Goose for Christmas. And that's when we first started racing. I started racing BMX.
He was looking for a thrill. He had boundless energy. There was this one road that we would take on the way to high school. He'd go down that road going so fast, and we'd hit the bump, and we'd like catch air.
I would say for around here, I was pretty good. I was second and third in the state from when I started racing, I was 14. I was a novice. I turned to expert within 9 races. Most of the time I was second in the state, and I think I was when I was 19, I think I got third in the state. I think I was pretty good. I wouldn't say I was like the best, but something I really enjoyed, and I felt like I did pretty good.
He will admit that he was very selfish, sort of self-absorbed more than he is now. I think being 19, I don't know many people who aren't.
The day of the accident, it was September 16th, 1990. I actually, previous from that, I lost my license for getting too many tickets. Me and my girlfriend went to the Cumberland Farms down the street, and I guess I was being a jerk because I told her to park in the handicap spot, and I ran into the store to get it, and she moved out of the spot. And when I got back in the car, I was like, "Why did you move the car?" And she was like, "'Cause it's a handicap spot." And I was like, "Okay," and kind of a jerk about it, I guess. So I grabbed my bike and I went out in the back with a couple other kids that were a little bit younger than me, and we were just fooling around on the jumps, and I hit the first jump and I scraped my leg. At that point I was like, should I just go back and and just like chill out till the race comes? But I didn't, and I went around to this other jump. I hit the jump, and it was only like a 2-foot jump, and I went over the handlebars, and I landed on the ground, and I remember just like thinking, wow, that hurt. And I went to go get up, and my arm came up and hit me in the face, and I couldn't move. And it was like, it felt like my legs were sticking straight up, but they weren't. And the other kids came over and was like, "Are you alright?" And I'm like, "No, I can't move. Go get my dad." So they called the ambulance. They carted me off in the ambulance, took me to South County Hospital, took an x-ray, and that's kind of the last thing I remember.
The first time I saw him, he was laying in a bed with a halo on, which is something that they use to stabilize the head, and it rested on his shoulder. There were screws in there to keep it stationary, and he was on a bed that rotated.
So I ended up being in the hospital for 6 months.
And being in the visiting area, there were people from like all walks of life. There would be like the athletes and like the goth kids and the skaters, and it was just like, you know, we were all there for him, and it was really cool. Jason's dad was a big teddy bear. I think it was important for Bill for us to see Jason as soon as possible.
He told me, I wish it happened to him and he could take it away. And he never made it about himself. I think that my father and my friends really made it easier. So everybody would like hang out at my house because I couldn't really hang out at their house. You know, you don't want to bring people down. And I wasn't depressed at all. We did so much stuff. Always going to concerts and going out late at night, you know, hanging around in Providence, and it was crazy. It was pretty good. Well, I saw her picture, like, you know how it used to come up with, like, people you might know or friends you might know. And so I saw her picture, and I was like, do I know her?
He didn't look at all familiar to me, so I didn't know who he was, but we had a lot of mutual buddies, I think they're called on Facebook. on MySpace. So I eventually sent him a message and said, do I know you? Do you know me? And he said, well, yeah, you're friends with this one and that one. And so we started kind of chatting.
She said she heard of my accident after, like, thinking back of it. We had a lot of mutual friends. So I was like, you want to come hang out sometime? And she's like, okay.
And I also knew his situation. He was very upfront about the wheelchair and the accident and his life and how that all operates. And I had never known anybody, friendly, professionally, or otherwise, in that situation. So I was intimidated.
So she finally said yes. She came over. We hung out. We watched TV for a little bit, and it was really cool. And she was really cool.
And it was super comfortable, and there were no agendas. So I remember when I left, I got in my car and I wasn't even off the island, and he sent me a text. He's like, so what did you think? And I said, you were so much cuter than I thought you'd be.
And I believe that was in 2007. So she ended up moving in, and it's been great. She's awesome. She helps me out so much.
I just remember waking up, like even before he took me out to dinner, and just knowing, like in my gut, this is a good person. You know, you're gonna love him. And I told him that, and here we are, 12 years later.
I actually started at CCRI before I got hurt, and I wanted to go for ceramics because I've always been artistic. Even since I was a little kid, I would always draw. I got a fine arts degree from CCRI. Then I went to Rhode Island College and got a graphic design degree. It's kind of a funny story. I was trying to raise money for my band that I did get. My friend Mark was like, what do you think about like laying like a canvas down on the ground and you rolling over it and selling those? And I was like, yeah, but it's not, you know, to me it sounded a little cheesy.
You know, I like photography. And when I found out that, you know, Jason had worked with Clint Clemens and who I didn't know, but when I figured out how that all evolved, and then he had this really nice camera, it was something for us to do together.
So I was like, I can paint with my mouth, Mark. And he's like, all right. Like, he was kind of skeptical of that. So he brought some stuff over, like some supplies, and we tried it, and he was amazed how good it was.
And I remember the first day I came home and he had worked on the sunflower, the very first sunflower, and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, this is amazing. Like, I couldn't do this with two hands, and here he is with his brush in his mouth, and it just took off. Like, it just really took off.
And another friend on Facebook saw it and showed it to a woman at Sprout Gallery. And she loved it. And she's like, do you want to have a gallery showing? And I'm like, I only have one painting. She's like, do you think you can do about 9 paintings? And this was in, I think this was December or January. She's like, do you think you can have 9 paintings done by April? And I said, sure. So I did them, and they just kept on getting better as I did them. And I had a show in April, and I sold everything but one of the paintings I did. Even people that didn't know they were painted by mouth were like, oh wow, these are good. So to know that I painted it with my mouth was pretty amazing to them.
I think it's just really interesting for me to be able to see the world through Jay's eyes.
I've always said to him, if you never ever sell another painting, will you still paint? Because I think that's important. I mean, I don't want it to ever feel like a job for him. And I think he truly loves it. Like, I think he likes seeing what he can do.
It was just awesome. It felt awesome to people liked what I was doing. I guess that goes along the lines of anything.